pre-session and post-session feedback mechanism that we use. So what we are going to do is we're going to think of a recent feedback that we gave to someone or received from someone. Recall that. Pleasant, unpleasant, productive, objective, whatever it was, whichever one you can recall from your recent past. And I'll go over a few of the pointers. And based on those pointers, you will evaluate that feedback, whether you gave or you received. And after the pointers, we will see that if that feedback, was any of those, if it qualifies to be a feedback that is helpful, hurtful, whatever it was. So that's what we're going to do. Is everyone with me? Okay. So everyone is on mute? Wow.
We kind of have a norm around that with meetings with more than a couple people, because sometimes there's background noise and then it's disruptive. So
yes, but I just feel empowered, more empowered than all of you. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'll keep it informal. Please, if you have any questions, any comments, any interject anytime you like, send chat. I'm a man, I'm not very good with multitasking, but I'll try to do, okay. So, all right, so when all of you have recalled your recent feedback and made some notes, it's important to make some notes, whatever you felt at that time when you gave or received that feedback, because we will go over different parameters and see that if you had all those parameters or some of those in mind when giving or receiving feedback. Now, feedback is a very important part of our communication, and most of our communication is non-verbal. Body language, expressions, gestures, all those contribute to feedback. With remote work and remote communication becoming more and more frequent, it will become even more important for us to be mindful when giving or receiving feedback to see if we actually, are objective, or are we serving the purpose for whichever. I mean, sometimes you just want to give feedback for no reason. All right, so there are 5 elements that I will address, and I would like you to, give your comments as you understand or as you want to react to it or say whatever you want to say. The first and foremost thing is objectivity. There are always, unless we're using mirror, there are always 2 or more stakeholders in a feedback mechanism. The person who's giving the feedback and the recipient of that feedback. And both of these people have to have a certain level of objectivity when they are giving or receiving feedback. When we are giving feedback and we are not clear why we are giving that feedback, if that feedback is going to help or hurt, or we want that person to become better at whatever that feedback is about, or we want them to change something. Is this about behavioral change? Is it about performance? Is it about efficiency? What is that we want to accomplish? And when somebody's giving us feedback, we also need to keep objectivity in mind. That, their tone, their style, their body language may be different than what they intend to. A lot of times people follow up with, no, by saying that, I meant that. Or they use words, we use words a lot of times just instinctively or reflexively, and then later on we realize that these were not the words we wanted to, or they don't convey the meanings that we wanted to convey. And then we go back and we say, by saying this, I meant that. So if we articulate our feedback a little bit before giving, and we think that, okay, which words will be appropriate, how to compose or formulate whatever we are going to say, how will it be very effective, then, it can make a huge difference. Huge. Like if your words are very, very supportive and very, very positive, as we like to use words positive and negative, but your gestures are not, your body language is not, in sync with your words, it may mean very, very different to the person receiving it. We are not in their shoes. We don't know what they have gone through all day, few days back, whatever they're going through in their job, or both sides, receiver as well as giver. So that brings me to the second point, which is empathy. We're all familiar with empathy. Empathy is, in the simplest possible word, the ability to be in the other person's shoes and try to feel what you would feel if the thing, whatever was said or done to them, was done to you. Like if you're giving the feedback, you were actually in the receiver's shoes. Or if you are in the receiving the feedback, you are in the giver's shoes. It could be your, supervisor, a senior colleague, somebody at home, even, kids, siblings, youngsters. Anyone could be giving you feedback. You're not in their shoes. You don't understand what they want to say and why are they saying whatever they are saying. If you understand the, little bit of the background or their situation or their state of mind, it can make a huge difference in the feedback. So empathy goes a long way. Understanding that this person is coming from this point, their point of view is based on that. For example, there could be a very, aggressive deadline for a project, and your boss or a senior colleague team leader is responsible to meet that. They're on the line. Their performance is being judged, and they will be based on that submission or deadline. You're working with them or for them. They will ask you, nobody else will ask you. They're very kind or caring otherwise, but this pressure, this deadline, this, whatever it is going to cause to him, her, or the company, gets them into a different persona from their normal everyday stress, pressure, changes it. If you don't understand that they're going through this, you will take it very differently. The objectivity will be gone, you will not have the empathy, and the feedback will become actually harmful rather than, helpful. So, objectivity and empathy. And then we come to emotional intelligence. There are always emotions involved. We are human. What makes us human is feelings and emotions. With artificial intelligence on the rise, I don't know how much, we can be proud of our intelligence. Machines are, I guess they're smarter than us, even though we created them. So our asset will at some point be feelings and emotions and how we deal with those. How intelligent we are in deciphering our own feelings and emotions and other persons. And it gets more complicated if there are more people involved than one-to-one conversation, one-to-one feedback. And it happens, like we are sitting here, we are talking, there is feedback. I see your expressions, I see your gestures. I'm picking some things up. You are being nice. Some of you are, smiling. I don't know that you actually like something that I'm saying, you're relating to it, because I don't know your background. I don't know your state of mind. I don't know why are you forced to sit here? You want to actually hoping to gain something from this. So until I have better understanding, Orissa was very, stingy with time. We have very little time. So I actually proposed to have an introduction, but I guess with this little time, we couldn't do that. That would have helped us, all of us, understand it. Some of you, I'm sure, work together, so you know each other better. Your feedback will be different from for those or to those who you do not know as much. So emotions and feelings mean totally differently to the person that you know well or you don't know well. You could be same happy, jolly, bubbly person, but that may not work for a person who doesn't know you very well. They may take it in totally different context or way than you mean it. So you need to understand that. Likewise, next thing is the bias. They go hand in hand together. We are humans. Objectivity, bias, they go again. You need to, every single time you need to see that, okay, how objective are you? How many bias? Bias, we can't get rid of it. There has to be a bias. Oh, I love this, I hate that. We don't love or hate something as much as we express that a lot of times. We like someone, we like someone's work, we like someone's field of work. So these are natural biases. Or we don't, there is a certain level of bias that comes into picture. We are humans, so we relate to each other. You're American, you relate more to each other when you're American. Within humans, you will find that bias that, oh, okay. And then, she just said that we are in Virginia, so we relate to each other even further. There is a certain level of, Virginia is for lovers, you all know that. So there's a lot of bias there. So whenever you are giving or receiving feedback, you need to decipher and hash out all these things. And of course, in the heat of the moment, in that particular moment, it's very difficult to go through the checklist and think, objectivity, check, this, check, emotional. You have to practice and get better at it. You must have heard practice makes a person perfect. There are 4 parts to it. I don't know how many of you heard 4 parts. Anyone? Okay. There are 4 parts to it. Reading, writing, conferencing, and practice. Reading makes a person full. Writing makes a person exact. Conference makes a person ready. And practice makes a person perfect. So all these things. You do some reading, then you write. Writing hashes out a lot of things. You are upset with somebody, like you really want to rip them apart at that moment. All I suggest is that, okay, take 3 seconds, count 1, 2, 3, take a deep breath, write your feelings or emotions, write your biases, sort it out. Just figure out that, okay, this is the bias that is working against it. I don't like this person, their work is great, but what am I going to do? What kind of feedback I'm going to give it to them? Or vice versa. I like this person very much, but their work is really sloppy. What am I going to do? What should my feedback be? And a lot of times we are so quick to judge or react. Everything that you did in the past, years of relationship, years of effort just goes, with that one comment or one feedback or one moment, just goes away. So you need to figure out how much bias is involved in that and how can you take care of it. You can get rid of it. There is no way you can get rid of the bias. So, and the last thing that I want to add, there are many other factors. I'm not saying there are other factors not involved in this, but these are predominantly human factors which are with us all the time and which immediately affect us in anything we do. And feedback is something very, very tricky. You genuinely want to help someone, you want to tell them something to make them, or make them become a better person at doing some specific thing or generally in their behavior. And if they're not in that state of mind and they don't take your feedback objectively, it backfires. So the last thing is culture. How sensitive we are to culture. We may come from same place, like, Virginia doesn't share one culture. You drive half an hour outside, towards south, it's a different world. Northern Virginia is one, we share more with Washington, D.C. and part of Maryland than we share with Virginia. So if you're coming from Virginia, doesn't mean you are at the same level of understanding about everything. Your lifestyle may be, and it is very different. The further you drive south towards Virginia, it keeps changing. In DC, people from all over the world, come there to work, to do whatever. They don't share the same culture. Their cultural sensitivities, their norms are different. I come from a culture where asking a question is disrespect. You can't ask a question to especially an elder. You can't question. Here, if you don't question, it's an insult. It's like they question your intelligence. You ask questions, you are an intelligent person. My father died 5 years ago. I was 50. Every single time he walked into a room, we jumped out of our seat and, stood until he sat down. This culture, not many people understand. So you need to be culturally very sensitive to other person who you are giving or receiving feedback from. A Japanese person, bending before you or kneeling before you and smiling and telling you something doesn't mean they're very happy with you. They're just being nice and courteous. They will probably very rarely scream or yell at you. I had a friend, Punjab is a part in India and Pakistan where people are very, loud, noisy, colorful. You can't tell if they are happy or they're fighting or whatever. So I had this friend, whenever I went there, the family is like, they are arguing like crazy. And I used to get nervous that, okay. So if it was in my family, people would never talk to each other for the rest of their life again if they were talking with that tone and that, kind of. But 2 minutes later, they are like sharing jokes and they're laughing. And it took me a long time to understand that. So if they were giving me feedback, they will be the same loud and noisy person they are. If I am, they may not even understand a lot of times I knocked at their door and they didn't hear it. They said, you should knock loudly, and I can't because I don't. So you need to understand this thing from that person's point of view. We put all these things together, from objectivity to empathy to emotional intelligence to biases and to culture. You put all these things together and you reformulate whatever instance of your feedback that you recorded earlier. You hash it out. You see that, okay, so which tests my feedback passes, which it doesn't. When I gave feedback, was I mindful of any of these? Did I think of that person's, background or state of mind or How will they receive it? If I was in their shoes, how would I have taken this feedback that I'm giving to them, etc. Now, you should take, I'm sure many of you, especially ladies, are very good at multitasking. They were doing it as we were going along. I would like you to take a moment and see where your feedback falls in this thing. And if somebody wants to volunteer, because I'll pick someone if you don't volunteer, and tell us something about, how they, what happened, what they did, and how they feel now about, is there any difference if they, use these parameters? Will their feedback be any different, receiving or giving? Anyone?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
And I'm happy to give, I guess, an example too. So in listening to you, and number 5 was culture, things that we should keep in mind when discussing feedback or giving feedback or eliciting feedback. So is there a way in which you can have a conversation, or I guess what I guess I'm really trying to get at, what is the best way, say in your example, how you gave the example about in your culture, right, that giving proper respect to elders, you do not talk back or you don't ask questions. But as an American culture, it's looked at a little bit differently. If you don't ask the question, then it can oftentimes be a situation where people will think, oh, well, maybe Arissa doesn't have the intelligence or the know-how or the capacity or what have you.
Or doesn't care.
Right, or doesn't care. So I'm trying to figure out what is the best way in those instances, say for instance, if I find myself in that position, to where I can have a conversation with someone to give them some insight in terms of like my culture, because even in my culture, it's somewhat similar to yours in that oftentimes I know that I might be quiet, say for instance, in a meeting, but it's not because I'm not paying attention or I don't have the feedback. It's just because culturally, as in your culture, when you are listening to elders or when you're listening to someone who has expertise, you're groomed at a young age to give that respect to them and to be silent until asked to participate. So sometimes if I'm not asked to participate, I revert back to what I've been groomed to do, which is for me to be silent and to wait to be welcome to ask. So I'm just trying to think of what is the best way when I'm in that situation to let people know that, to explain whether that this is a cultural difference and not so much that I'm not contributing or I don't care. So is there a way, I guess, to properly communicate that with people?
You see, you won't give feedback to a random person, right? Or take feedback from absolutely random person. There has to be some, shared interest or overlapping activity or something, the proximity, something between you and the other person because of which you are giving or taking feedback. So the more you understand about them, as I said, I see all these pretty faces, I see expressions, I see absorbed, into thinking or conversation or something else. I see some people are engaged, some people are distracted. I see all of that. In this little time, I understand as much as I understand. And I can tell you that if I'm giving feedback to different people here in this meeting, I will be mindful of whatever I have learned about them by now. The more you know about a person, the more you are, interested in knowing, the better you can deal with them. You can't just randomly, just because I see few people. I mean, if there are 4 ladies, I can't treat them all the same. I have to understand that, okay, one person is different from the other. How are they different? From accent, from appearance, from their, demeanor, from different things, I would do that. That's why people who are well-traveled, well-read, who have a broader exposure. I went to upstate New York long time ago, and I had a couple other family members with me, and we went to a fast food restaurant. And I noticed something very strange. Like everybody was still wherever they were and looking at us. Like, what is this? You know, it was like deep into the upstate part where they probably, and later we realized that maybe they don't see colored people as frequently as, you know, so it was a very rare sighting for them. Now, not understanding anything about that, how would they deal with me? That was their feedback. That's what I picked up from that. Okay, we have never seen this thing before. What is it? You know, if I had stayed there or I had started going there or there were other people, their feedback would be different. So there is no formula or there is no instant way that you can do that. You'll have to know the people, the audience, the group, whichever you're working with, and find a way to communicate with them. That's the only way. I mean, you can give disclaimers, but how many disclaimers or footnotes you can give, you know? So as you go, you figure out a way to talk to them, to deal with them. Now, if I see a person here in this meeting sitting in outside seating versus in a library or in a kitchen or I can sort of kind of start, you know, thinking that, okay, what kind of, just because sitting in a different place, what kind of state of mind they're in, or how does their day look like? You know, like human mind works, continuously keeps working. Okay, are you distracting me, or are you going to, anybody's going to share that? Do we have, how much time we have?
Technically, we're out of time.
Can we do this like 5 minutes?
But I would like to, I would like to maybe just ask if anybody has any questions, maybe, you know, before people have to jump off and go to other meetings. I don't want to, I'd hate for someone to have a question and it not be answered. So if anyone has any questions, maybe we can take those.
Okay, so, well, I want to thank you all, and I don't expect that this little time, whatever I said will instantly help or something will quickly change. But I'm hoping that we will follow up at some point and you will start working on this thing. Keep these things in mind. Just become mindful when giving and receiving feedback, and it will hopefully make it more effective and more productive for you. I have shared my LinkedIn. Anyone has any question or wants to, you know, discuss anything, I'm always available. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, they always go by so quickly. Yeah. I think it was great for you giving everybody, including me, because I took notes, the 5 considerations, the 5 things that we should keep in mind when talking about feedback. I also, it would be great to, I think what I may do is maybe do like a touch point with those that joined, just to see if there was anything that, you know, because sometimes, you know, it takes a minute to kind of process information and digest, and then you may have a question thereafter. So maybe it might be good for me to just touch point with everybody to see if maybe, if anything else, you know, arises post meeting. And if so, I hope that it's okay to reach back out to you.
Oh, definitely. Anytime, okay. Anytime.
Okay.
Usually we do this in a workshop and it's like longer duration.
Right.
We actually, you know, see some of these things in action. We see some big people from different cultures and we make them do this, that, okay, how will you give this person feedback? You know? That
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that makes perfect sense.
Sure. Okay, so you're welcome anytime.
Okay.
And if you want to have a follow-up meeting to this, I'll be very happy to do that. I'll appreciate feedback.
Sure.
Feedback. Yeah. So please feel free to share. Anything else I can do for you personally or for the organization, I'll be very happy to do it.
Okay, thank you so very much. Have a blessed day and a good week. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.